All for being with us tonight as we undertake the Zionsville Board of Parks and Recreation regular meeting for Wednesday, February 9th, 2022. Keeping with Governor Holcomb's executive order, we are doing this meeting live and online for those who don't feel comfortable actually being in the room with us tonight. And it's good to see so many people here. So thank you for coming out for the beginning of this meeting tonight, and invite you to stay for the whole thing if you'd like. But the first thing we're going to do is call the roll. And with that, we go Vice President Jill Pack.
Here.
Secretary John Wallenberg.
Here.
Tim Cassidy.
Here.
John Salowitz.
Here.
Sarah Moore.
Here.
Sarah joining us online tonight, and Aaron Bidwell is not here. So we will continue on then with the agenda. And on the agenda as listed, it says public presentations and comments. We're going to go ahead and defer that for just a moment. And we're going to jump right into the recognition of our Parks Board attorney, our former Parks Board attorney, Roger Burris. He was the Parks Board legal counsel for 3.5 decades. And as many of you know, Roger grew up here. In fact, as the crow flies, right over there, maybe just a couple of 100 yards. And I don't want to say Roger's old, but he's been here a long time. And when the rail trail, in those days, when the rail trail existed, it was just a rail line at that time. And he probably listened to the trains coming through at night as he was trying to go to sleep. And when he was a kid, we didn't have much of a parks department here. The parks department as we know it, really formed in the mid-70s when the Starkey family gave us the land now known as Starkey Park. And the town needed to set up a parks board to manage that. Roger took over in the mid-80s and has literally had a hand in the acquisition, development, and maintenance of every park property since then. The department has grown from Starkey Park to 15 parcels and 500 acres under our management, and it's still growing as the town continues to develop. So he has done a remarkable job over those years, keeping everything moving forward. So to get the honor started tonight, we're going to begin with Mayor Emily Styron is here, and she has a proclamation to read to Roger. Roger, why don't you come on up and stand by the podium?
Thank you so much. It has been my pleasure to have worked with you, Roger, since 2004, 2003, sometime like that, when I got to sit up there.
You remember that better than I do. I remember it.
Yes, yeah. I know, I'll bet. You've seen a lot of those real estate transactions. Well, it's my great honor to proclaim today as Roger Burris Day. Whereas Roger Burris was born and raised in Zionsville, and whereas Roger Burris has practiced law in Zionsville since graduating from Valparaiso University in 1982, and whereas Roger Burris has served as the legal counsel for the Zionsville Board of Parks and Recreation since 1985, helping to guide the board through land acquisition, construction, and maintenance of the town's parks portfolio since that time. And whereas Roger Burris's efforts have helped lead to the establishment of more than 15 parks, covering over 500 acres in Zionsville. And whereas Roger Burris is honored for his many years of serving his community by helping to obtain and develop parkland and associated facilities. And now, therefore, recognizing Roger Burris's dedication to Zionsville and the community through his service as legal counsel for the Zionsville Board of Parks and Recreation, the town of Zionsville, through its mayor, proclaims February 9th, 2022 as Roger Burris Day.
Thank you, Mayor. And one of the biggest efforts that Roger and the board has been focused on the last few years is finishing the Big Four rail trail. And our board secretary, John Wallenberg, came up with, I thought, a pretty good way to thank Roger for all of his work on that. And he's going to tell us about that now. John?
So I've been on the board for, I think I'm going into my 5th year now. And I remember our first meeting And I don't remember the exact topic, but it was something to the effect of an easement between a cemetery. And Roger brought up the name of the folks that used to own that parcel of land. And I was impressed with the fact that he knew this, thinking to myself, gosh, this guy really knows a lot about the parks. Surely I'll never get to that point. Well, I can say, after being involved with bond issues and new superintendents and nature centers and parks, I can definitely say that you have forgotten more than I will know about parks. So on behalf of myself, the rest of the board members, past board members, future board members, we are all in gratitude of your service. And to honor your service, we will have a plaque that says, in honor of Roger Burris, Park Board Council, placed by the Park Board February 2022. It's going to be on the north expansion, a tree placed in your honor that we hope to serve the citizens of Zionsville as you have served us. So thank you.
So I know many of you know that Roger is a bike rider too. So hopefully he'll be able to ride by that plaque and enjoy it a number of times over the years to come. And now a few words from a longtime board member and also past president, Tim Cassidy.
Thanks, Roger and I go back almost 20 years. Early days recycling, and then Pathways Committee, and then for the last 8 years, the Parks Board. So, what I want to say about Roger, it's just been my pleasure to be his friend and his colleague. And some things about him, just listen to his voice, and you immediately know what a smooth, this honey voice. He must be knowledgeable. He must be convincing. And he is. You see him as an advocate, and he's wonderful. He's really a wonderful advocate for you. But some couple of things that you may not know about Roger, or they may not be apparent, is that he is tenacious. You see him in a cycling group going about 60 miles at 25 miles an hour, and he is just tenacious in the pack. In fact, he has a bunch of friends that every year he goes out to Iowa and does the Des Moines Register's Great Ride Across Iowa, the RAGBRAI. And it's about 70 miles a day for 7 days. And of course, he gets to enjoy his craft beers at night. But I did it once, and it's very, very difficult. So he is tenacious in whatever he puts his mind to. And finally, he's also committed and loyal. He's loyally committed, and this is whether it's to his like his father and his law practice, whether it's to his clients. I know he has so many clients around Indianapolis who he's worked with closely over the years. Certainly with the Parks Board for 35 years, that loyal commitment is greatly appreciated. And then, of course, there's his family. He's always talking about his family, whether it's the musical genius of Danielle that has been transferred to a couple of his twin sons, but his kids are special to him. So I really appreciate that tenaciousness and the committed loyalty that you've shown us all. And of course, Zionsville has been the beneficiary of all this. Finally, going back to the voice a little bit, talking a little bit about his kids. I just returned from some travels right before the snowstorm last week, and our furnace was going out in our house. We hadn't been in that, so my wife was taking care of the furnace in the house, and I had to get down to. We have a very isolated cabin in the very remote southwest part of Brown County. So it's off grid, it's a half mile off the road. And there's a snowstorm. I haven't been there for 5 weeks. And so I had to go down there by myself and try to get a half mile off the road in this 6-8 inches of snow. So I'm back there, I'm taking care of, everything was great. So, no big problems. And I'm back there. Finally, I rest. I go down on Friday, and it's Saturday afternoon, and I'm finally resting. And it can be discomforting down there. I mean, especially if you're by yourself. It's the quietest, most isolated place on earth, I think, at least in Indiana. And so, and there's no cell phone, there's no satellite, there's no TV, there's no GPS, but you do get the radio. And you get two stations on the radio. You get WTTS out of Bloomington and you get WFIU out of Bloomington. And so I turn on the radio Saturday afternoon and it was like, I'm home. I'm no more discomforted. I'm comforted because there was the voice, but it was the voice of Roger and Danielle's son, Christopher, who's the host of the WFIU Saturday classical music program. But you know, when you have listened, talked, been a friend with Roger, and then you hear his sons, there's an amazing similarity. So on behalf of the Parks Board, Roger, thank you for your 35 years of service, great advocacy and comfort for us as a community. Thanks.
And we do have one more thing here, and I thought about a good way to honor Roger, and I think that if we were to build a Mount Rushmore here in Zionsville, arguably the Burris family would need to have a place on that, given Roger's father's long tenure here and Roger's long tenure here, and what Roger has done for so many people in town. When I think about the number of board members that we have had over the last 35 years, it's a big number, dozens, and we've had one legal counsel that's driven everything through. So I think the board and the town and the people in the town owe you a great debt and a great thank you for what you did. So thanks to Lance, I was able to procure an original brick from Main Street. And maybe you rode across this brick on your bike, about 50 years ago, or more than that, I guess. Huh? Yeah. And we had it engraved, and I hope this is something that you'll treasure just as we've treasured your time with us. So from the Parks Board and from the people of Zionsville, thank you so much for everything that you've done.
I'm really overwhelmed by what's going on here today. So Mayor Styron, President Stair, and members of the Park Board, it's certainly strange for me to be on this side of the dais, compared to where I usually am. And I was really surprised to get a text message this morning from my daughter-in-law saying it's Roger Burris Day, because I just did not imagine that, and that is pretty cool. And I've gotten text messages all day about that, and emails and all sorts of stuff. But when you add up the numbers, and certainly I have forgotten about some of the stuff that I've been involved with the Parks Board, but it's been a partnership. It's been a lot of board members, like Tim said, and the best comments that I've heard today are the ones that talk about the fact that the Parks Board has accumulated a vast amount of parkland, and that was certainly not something that I did totally. I just did all the legal work, but it was a lot of fun. Like somebody said, there's been a lot of members on the Park Board. I've enjoyed working with all of them, and as you know, I could tell stories all night about stuff, but before I do that, I would like to recognize a few people that have helped me along the way. First and foremost, my wife Danielle, where'd she go? She's taping. She may or may not appreciate having me home on the second Wednesday night of every month. And something that I realized is that, if you look at 12 Park Board meetings a year for 35 years, and if you did those, every night, that would be over a year and 2 months of every night being in a meeting. So that's a lot of time that I've spent, up here. And so we'll see if Danielle likes having me home more. But I remember, after every meeting in January, I'd come home and Danielle would say, "Well, did you get hired again?" Because it's up up to the board to hire me. So thanks for doing that for 35 years. Also, we've talked about my twins who live in Bloomington and who are wonderful musicians. Some of you have heard them play at the farmer's market, or Christopher plays at the Chris Kindle Market. They used to play the Fisher's Renaissance Festival. They're very talented young men. And I know John Stair also appreciates the media connection. He gave Christopher some advice about how to go about that. I think he told him not to do it, but but it was still very helpful to him. We have a son, Andrew, who's 3 years older than the twins. And Andrew has 3 young children, 2 boys and a girl. So he and his wife are very busy. His wife, Courtney, is the one that saw the announcement today. Courtney is a nurse practitioner and also was the coach of the Zionsville Middle School cheerleading squad. So she's a good athlete in her own right. My son Andrew is an IT person, but he has a degree in landscape architecture from Ball State, and talked to Trish's firm about some things at a time. And Andrew actually was also an intern for the Parks Department when I think during his senior year, and actually helped Matt Dickey with the grant for the first phase of Heritage Trail Park. So that's kind of cool as well. I also have a couple of friends here that I'd like to recognize in the front row, Brad Allen and Brian Pease. They both have rather significant jobs in medicine. And many people know them from that, but I know them from the seat of the bicycle because they're the guys that I do the ride across Iowa with, and do many rides on Saturday mornings and other times with them. So I've ridden, thousands of miles with them, just like I've ridden thousands of miles with Tim Cassidy, and that has been one of the joys of my life. Just a quick story about Tim Cassidy. When I first met Tim, I met him and we kind of hit it off. And then the second time I came into his bike shop, I was kind of surprised to see that, his face was kind of scarred and he had abrasions and stuff. And I'm thinking, this is not the typical guy who went to law school at Harvard and then retired from Eli Lilly. Then I find out, oh, he's a mountain biker. So he had a little accident over the weekend when he was mountain biking, probably down in Brown County. So he likes to have fun. And, he started the biking team that I'm still involved with. So really appreciate Tim's words tonight and his support. But before I talk about kind of why I'm turning things in at this point, I want to tell you just one story about the rail trail, because I think that really is the kind of epitome of my career with the park board, because it started 30 years ago, actually, when I checked and when I talked to David Brown, who was the park board president at that time. I thought it was David's idea, but he reminded me that actually the idea came in 1987, and it was a presentation by Zionsville Middle School kids who had Mike McGuire as a teacher, and he brought his kids in here to the park board meeting to talk about the idea of converting, which then was the recently, abandoned and terminated railroad line, the Penn Central Railroad, and turn that into a rail trail. I think David Brown deserves a lot of credit for kind of taking that idea and running with it. And David couldn't be here tonight because he has a grandson who plays basketball for DePaul, and they had a game, which also is a neat connection. But with the first acquisition for the rail trail was like 1992. And I have to tell you that at that time, there was a big difference in the town and in everything, you can imagine that. But when we started acquiring pieces of the rail trail, which carried a lot of difficulties because of title issues, and like one piece we then got into 4 lawsuits, because the owners wanted their section and didn't want a rail trail there. But we dealt with all those. But when the town council, heard what we were doing, David Brown and I were summoned to the town council meeting in order to justify, how we were going to be able to do this without putting the town at risk. And, they were very concerned about the liability of things. And I think those are valid concerns, but we did our homework and we thought that it could work. And when you think back at, how much has changed since then, it's just amazing. How, now rail trails are really valued as, it's like the homes that are closer to the rail trail have more value than those that are not. And it took many years, for that change in perspective to happen. So, looking back at some of my notes, the people on the park board back then, Bing Pratt, Nancy Tickajohn, her husband George was also very involved, Hope Horning, and a guy named Dan Clark, and David Brown was the president. But Dan Clark came in kind of handy, and he still lives on Pine Street. Dan Clark was a bridge engineer. So, when we first were looking at the 100-foot bridge and actually acquiring that as part of a park, it was helpful to have a bridge engineer on the park board. So we ended up being able to do it. I think the town council said, okay, but we're going to separate your insurance line item from the rest of the town because we want to see how much this is going to cost us, and it's going to be part of your budget, not ours. And by the way, at that time, the budget for the park board was about 60 to 70,000 a year. So obviously a lot's changed since then too. And so then it was rewarding that a few years later, we kind of entered the period of park board town council relations that I will call the feeder system, because David Brown ended up on the town council. Dick Crane came up through the park board, ended up on the town council. So there was a time when most of the people on the town council had come through the parks department, through the parks board. And that was really helpful in kind of, getting the town council and the park board really seeing eye to eye on property acquisition and some of the things that we're going to have to do in order to do what we've done. So that was really a change in paradigm for it's like at that point, almost anything the park board wanted to do would get approved by the town council. So that was very helpful. So we've had a lot of good presidents of the town council. Two of you here tonight are good or going to be good. David Carr was another member that moved up to the town council. Jeff Glass was another Lilly person who was park board president. Ellen Butts for a number of years. Jeff Edmondson. I'm sure I would miss somebody if I continue trying to name all the people that. Steve Bullington was very did a lot of work for the Parks Department. I remember when Mayor Styron helped us with our first bond issuance and was a very valued member of the park board at that time because of what she brought to that situation, which we had never done before. So she and Katie Culp really spearheaded that and made sure that we did it the right way and got it done. That was another kind of key to what we have now. So I know you want me to wrap this up because you've got other business to do. And, but, after 35 years and after being able to finish the rail trail, which by the way, we've got 2 more closings. I think they're going to happen this week. And then we've got one little easement that is all prepared, ready to go. So I think by the end of the month, the rail trail acquisitions will be done, which is phenomenal. And I'm so happy that I was able to finish those transactions and kind of go out on a high note, let's say. I mean, I feel kind of like Tom Brady, only I won the Super Bowl before I retired. And I think, the Parks Department, the last few years, it's been intense, a lot of work, but because of that work and because of what is going to happen this year, I mean, I firmly believe that 2022 is going to be absolutely the best year in Zionsville Parks history. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be in the same office. I'm going to share my knowledge and my files. with Amy. I've worked with Amy for the last 2 years. You're in good hands with her. Her law partner is a friend of mine, and I just know that, that's another one of the things that just worked into this. The last thing is that some of my office staff is here. So Beth Cease, my partner, and next to her, Jenny Riddell, my paralegal, and Bonnie Kincaid, who's everybody knows, and she's been around longer than me. I want to say thank you to you as well for your support. And I really appreciate the honor that you've given me here tonight. I mean, it's beyond my wildest dreams, and I just want you to know how much I appreciate it and how much I appreciate Zionsville Parks. So thank you very much.
We have one more note to add. Again, this is Roger Burris Day, so in addition to the free parking that you're all enjoying tonight outside of Town Hall, we do have a reception room set up where you can go and greet Roger and say thank you yourself and speak with him directly. The Fanimation room, so as you head out toward the front door, turn to the right, and that room is set up with coffee and some snacks and things like that. So we hope you'll take a few minutes and stop and see Roger there and enjoy that. So as far as the meeting is concerned, I'm going to go ahead and call 5-minute recess, and then we're going to jump into the bulk of the meeting here, and we have a lot to get through tonight. So we'll be doing that in 5 minutes. If you want to stay, you're perfectly welcome to do so. Would love it if you did. But if not, we understand. And again, Roger, thank you so much for everything. We really do appreciate it. And, I don't know, Amy, you think you have 35 years in you? We'll see. That's a long run for anybody. So 5-minute break and we'll get back to it then. All right, the words that every third grader hates to hear, recess is over. Time to jump into the meeting here. So we're going to get started working through our agenda. At the top of the agenda is the approval of the minutes for our previous meeting. And you probably noticed looking at your packet that the minutes are now more of a transcript, different from what we've done in the past. Something that we're trying here. We have access to this system to do this. It adds to transparency, we think, but also adds to our reading time too. So this is something that we can revisit in a couple of months. And if we want to talk about whether or not we want to go back to having a summary like traditional minutes, or if we want to continue with the transcript. But for the moment, does anybody have any corrections on the January 12th minutes? That being said, do I have a motion to approve the January 12th minutes?
I move we approve the minutes as submitted.
Tim Cassidy moves that we approve the minutes as submitted. Do we have a second?
Second.
John Wallenberg seconds. And because we have Sarah on remote tonight, we're going to have to take a roll call vote with everything we do. So Jill Pack.
Aye.
John Wallenberg.
Aye.
Tim Cassidy.
Aye.
John Salowitz.
Aye.
Sarah Moore.
Aye.
And I say aye as well. All right, the next item on the agenda is the public presentations or comments. Do we have anyone in the room who would like to come up and make a comment or bring anything to our attention? Anybody online? No? Okay. Well, then we'll move on to staff reports, and leading that off is our Superintendent of Parks and Recreation, Jared Logston.
Thank you, John. How do you follow up that? Well, we do want to welcome Mallory Flume to the department. She is our natural resource technician. It's a new position we created this year, which is a hybrid position of natural resource management and park maintenance. So we welcome her to the department. Also mentioned that there was a pre-filing meeting with the Plan Commission internal group. We will intend to submit to the Plan Commission our trailhead development for their March meeting. So that'll be coming up soon and moving that right along. Additionally, we did have a pre-bid meeting for our layer grant that we received for this year. So a little history with the layer program. Zionsville has been working for just under a decade with the DNR with their layer program, which enhances streams, rivers, and bodies of water. And so we have been working with them on our Starkey shoreline to improve the erosion that we've been witnessing as Eagle Creek changes its route. So this year we are conducting a new study to revisit the 4 project sites that we had previously, and specifically the 2 that we have not entered into construction yet. And also this gives us an opportunity to look at the overly Warman shoreline and develop projects to fortify that shoreline so we keep all 53 acres of our park as we bring it online. So we will, those bids, those proposals for that project will be due at the end of the month, and we will have that before you at the March meeting to proceed. Finally, I wanted to just mention in 2021, kind of our departmental vision was get up, get out, and go play. So you saw a variety of new recreational offerings in the community, and we're going to move forward on that momentum. But for this year, kind of the 2022 vision for the department is everybody plays. So we will be working and finding new ways to identify opportunities for our target demographics that are a little bit harder to read and grasp their attention. So that's our teenagers and our seniors, our 2 stubborn munches. So we will be expanding programs to those demographics, as well as providing new opportunities to make sure everybody can get to our parks with more routes and connectivity. So you will see those initiatives throughout the year with our agenda items. And that is all from the superintendent report. I believe Mindy Murdoch, our Director of Recreation Services, is online to give a quick update from her report.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. So not a lot. We'll go through this pretty quickly, but again, continue to have a really good turnout at the Nature Center. A little over 1,000 walk-ins for January. So even with the weather being kind of bad. We saw a lot of people coming through the door, but we've started to focus on some of our large projects that we want to do for 2022. So having a little slower in attendance is allowing the naturalists to kind of start working on some of those. Big ones are focusing on trying to reach out into our scout groups, trying to reach more school groups, and then also to look into expanding our homeschool offerings through the Nature Center. We did have 2 webinars that were both very well attended in January. Naturalist Rachel Felling did a backyard maple sugaring webinar. And then I actually held one, which was at lunchtime. So maybe that's the time to do a webinar on beginning vegetable gardening. So both of those, Rachel, she had 28 attend her webinar there, and I actually had 100 sign up for mine. So if you missed those, if you're interested, they are both on our YouTube channel. And so anyone can go back and revisit those as they want to. A couple other things. We did our first ever puzzle swap. So Saturday, January 29th was National Puzzle Day. And we actually hosted a puzzle swap at Town Hall. So for about 2 weeks prior to that, with the help of the MAC at Town Hall, people could stop in and drop off their puzzles. For each puzzle they dropped off, they got a ticket. And then they came back on that Saturday with their tickets in tow. And so for every ticket they had, they got to pick out a new to them puzzle. So we had a little over 300 puzzles when it was all said and done, donated for the swap. And we had over 60 people attend our first ever swap. So it's definitely something that we will probably be doing again. Everyone had a lot of fun. We saw people from all ages, from really young all the way up into a lot of seniors. So, and of course, you know, January, winter, it's a great time to do puzzles. So everyone got some new puzzles to try out. And then the other thing I wanted to add in is that our part-time naturalist, Sierra Stewart, she did attend online certified interpretive guide training through National Association of Interpretation, and she did pass. So she is now CIG certified. So all of our naturalist staff have at least a CIG or higher in their certification. So, and that's all I have for January.
All right, thank you, Mindy. Also on the line, we have our Director of Maintenance Services, Greg Dickinson, with his report.
Good evening, everybody. So it's been a pretty busy month with our maintenance team. Besides going our daily tasks of, you know, keeping the parks up and clean and safe. A couple of things I want to highlight is they did spend close to a week assisting our ecological contractor in the invasive honeysuckle removal, and through doing that, they removed about 50 truckloads of invasive brush and tipped it all out at Perkins. So it's quite a big feat that we're glad we accomplished. Another thing we finally did get another memorial bench in, and that is installed at the Starkey Park at the base of the switchback ramp. So we did get that installed this month, and that kind of just wraps it up for what we have for this month.
Thank you, Greg. Any questions from our Director of Rec or our Director of Maintenance? If not, I'll turn it over to Amy Nooning with her park attorney report.
Sure. Roger and I, as he mentioned, have been in close communication over the past month or so here. And he's been sharing his wisdom and experience with me and bringing me up to speed on hunting projects. He's working now to package together some digital packets relating to each project and going to include all the documents that are related to that and send that all over to me. We're going to meet with Jared and Amy Lacey, I think, here within the next couple of weeks here at Town Hall, so he can physically give us the documents that he's been housing in his office that we may just have hard copies of, and we're going to aim to digitize some of those things just for easy accessibility and public records retention. And the 4 things that Roger mentioned, the 4 land acquisitions to finish the rail trail, those are all just about completed. The one on the Kane property, it's a 55-foot strip of land along 400 South. That has already been closed. That was done. Right next to that, we have an easement that should be executed hopefully the beginning of next week. Mr. Garrison has indicated that he's having his legal team review that right now and hopes to get it back to us real quickly. So those two pieces are, one's done, one's very, very close to being done. And then on the other end, on Zionsville Road, the two properties there that we are acquiring, those will be closed this week. I think that one of the property owners signed their documents today, the other one's to sign them tomorrow. And then I think John is going to link up with Roger maybe later on this week and finalize those. So hopefully by midweek next week, we're anticipating all four of those to be all finished.
So the last time we talked about this, it was 98% done. Now we're at 99%, and the finish line is within sight. So that's great.
And when you're downloading an app, and it's right there at the end, and it's like, I'm gonna have to.
All right. Well, thank you, Amy.
Sure.
All right. New business.
I do have one addition to request to the new business, and that is to add on the review of the snow clearing policy for the Parks Department. So if you're ready, we can jump right into that.
Sure.
Just a quick overview. This policy was last updated in 2018, and it kind of lines out the priorities that the Parks Department maintenance team will respond to as snow events happen. So the Parks Department is not, a professional snow clearing crew. We have very limited resources, but this priority list was developed so that we can reopen our parks and engage the community as quickly as possible after these events. So just a little housekeeping and updating of this policy to review tonight, and with your approval, we will adopt this moving forward. So it's broken into three primary levels of response. So with level 1 priorities, when the accumulation reaches over 3 inches of snow, there is the potential for overtime. So regardless of the day of the week, we can respond to these snow events on the weekends or before hours as appropriate and as needed and as resources are available. So within that is Mulberry Fields, and that is the middle and southern parking bays and drive. And for tonight, anything in green is what I would like to add to our priority 1 list, or add tonight, and anything in red is something that we will subtract. So for Mulberry Fields, since we are obligated as the property owners to maintain our path width in front of our property, that is regardless of whether you are a residence, public municipality, or commercial enterprise, you are responsible for the pathways and sidewalks in front of your land. So I am adding the perimeter pathways on Mulberry Fields as part of that priority 1. And then speaking about the rail trail, currently we do clear from Laurel Avenue up until Heritage Trail Park, but with crews already engaged to that area, it just makes sense to also target the Nancy Burton trailhead and all the extensions. So truly clearing the entire paved portion of the Big 4 rail trail when we do respond to these snow events in priority 1. And as we bring on the southern and northern expansions, we will revisit this next year. So
when you say the Nancy Burton trailhead, is that the parking lot there?
the parking lot and the ramp up to it. Yes. Yep. Rather than mobilizing twice, that it only takes a couple of minutes. So speaking with Greg, we're confident that we can accommodate that extra work. Removing the Zion Nature Center, as we are no longer in the school and over at the library. So we do appreciate the library's resources responding and clearing those pathways and parking lot so people can visit the Nature Center. And also at Heritage Trail Park, I do want to add this as a priority 1. The immediate parking lot, as well as the inner paths to the dog park and the pathway along 875. So that pathway is new with phase 2 construction. That's why I'd like to add that, as well as the dog park is a paid service that members utilize. So I think it's important that we clear that since we're in the area anyways on that initial report. Just a couple of other things that we are responding to with that level 1 priority, and some of these are ordinance bound. That is the Village Corner sidewalks, Lincoln Park sidewalks, Elm Street Green sidewalks along the road, American Legion Trail crossing along the park's southern border, and the sidewalks around the 2 town parking lots in the village. So those are also things that we have historically and will continue to respond to with that priority 1 event. Something else I'd like to add, and it was just based off this most recent event, is to list the school zones as a priority one as well. So Monday morning came this week, and historically the school zones were listed as a third priority. So that is the third priority that we get to on the next regular business day. I think it's imperative we try to clear those routes to school, especially as bus services are questionable. We had, students walking in the road to try to get to school. So with our resources, we do want to try to prioritize that as a level 1 response, allowing us to respond on a Saturday or Sunday to get those clear, or coming in early on Monday to get those cleared up before school. To level 2, so this is again when accumulations reach 3 inches of snow, but these are not overtime qualifying. So these would be conducted on the next business day. So this would be after priority 1 is finished and not triggering that. So removing the Nancy Burton trailhead, as that is included as priority 1 now. This includes Creekside Nature Park's internal pathways and parking lot, Starkey's parking lot up at the Sugar Bush, Heritage Trail Park, the other pathways, and then our new extended parking lot. I think would be time to revisit that. Mulberry Fields, this would be the last parking bay as well as the paved loop. And the American Legion Trail Crossing, that would be the parking lot and internal paths. And then also the municipal building walkways, which has never been in writing, but we are housed out of the municipal building. The public does still interface with that facility when needed with the police side. So we should clear those walkways with the next business day so that people can safely enter the building. And then priority 3 is kind of attempting to do the rest of pathways in town. So these are already listed, and all I have done is remove the Mulberry Fields since that's already covered in a previous priority. So these are the good intentions of the Parks Department, and we do attempt to respond to these as well so that residents can get around town. But as stated in the policy, there are times the snow will melt before we can ever respond to these types of events. So that's just the reality of our resources and our ability to respond, but they are worth noting and listing. So that is all the additions and changes to the snow priority response. So happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Relative to the school properties, excuse me, don't they have plows of their own to do that?
They do have plows. I think they're usually focused on the parking lots, and historically the pathways have gone unplowed when Monday morning rolls around or the next school day. So just the ability to assist as a community. DPW, running around the clock to get our roads back open. They often push excess snow onto those pathways. So truly just trying to assist in that.
So we do that now. We're just
Currently we do
seeking to
that as a-
formalize that.
Yeah, currently that is a level 3 priority. So
Right.
we would not respond to that until our parks are clear and it is a business day.
Okay.
So just freeing up the ability to change up our strategy when it relates to school pathways.
So some of those pathways are technically not parks. We're just helping out,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
So they're not adjoining parks. They're not park property, but we're in the neighborhood, so we can help out. Like let's a kid walk to school or bike to school.
Exactly. Yep.
And what about the Jennings Field parking lot? There are a lot of kids that get picked up there after school from the high school. Does the district take care of that? The school district take care of that?
I would imagine that was not listed on the policy. So with that land swap that occurred, I would have to assume that they are responsible for that. We do plow up to that because there is a pathway connecting to the rail trail.
Okay. And it says here, assist Lions Club, perimeter pathway if needed. That's pretty far down the list, but
they got.
I think that's something people appreciate when we do that.
Absolutely. They were able to respond faster than we were with this event falling on a Thursday, Friday. So whether it was volunteers or whoever, they were able to get to that before us, but we are happy to help them as well.
To give perspective, did we hit any of these level 3s this time, or where did we land?
So we were able to respond on Saturday and finish all of the priority 1.
Okay.
And then Monday we did begin and finished level 2 as well as begin level 3. So the unfortunate thing is, with limited resources, we can't get to it all. And as people drive on it, it becomes compacted ice rather than fluffy snow. So it is more challenging the longer it sits. So it is a delicate balance.
All right, if there are no more questions, I'll take a motion to formalize the modified snow removal priority policy. Anybody want to make that motion?
I'll make a motion.
John Salowitz makes a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
Jill Pack seconds, and now we'll take a roll call vote. Jill Pack,
Aye.
John Wallenberg.
Aye.
Tim Cassidy,
Aye.
John Salowitz,
Aye.
Aaron Moore. I'm sorry, Sarah Moore. Sarah?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you now.
Okay, so yes. Aye.
Thank you. And I say aye as well, so that passes unanimously. Okay, Jared, do you want to go to the 5-year master plan review?
Go to the 5-year master plan. So an RFP has been developed for the next 5-year master planning process. So every 5 years, the park board develops this document to guide the next 5 years. We survey the community, benchmark with the surrounding neighborhoods and communities, and develop a priority list for our park system that is an actionable item that we dictate and guide the next 5 years of the Parks Department operations and funding. So we are beginning to arrive on that next cycle, which will be 2023, forward 5 years. So as that RFP comes in at the end of the month, we would like to establish a review committee of park board members to review the proposals that we receive from firms and ultimately make a recommendation to the entire park board for consideration and approval for funding. So those will be due at the end of the month, and we will hope to have a review session and then interviews with those firms March 4th through March 9th, concluding that decision and presenting that at the March 9th meeting. So just asking for recommendations on who should form that committee.
And that's going to be a heavy lift to ask for Parks Board members to be involved in this. It's going to be, probably a couple times a month of during the day, talking to the people running the survey and also going to public meetings and that sort of thing. So I'm proposing that Tim Cassidy and Jill Pack be the representatives from the Parks Board that are going to be doing that. And we will also, once we decide on who our vendor is going to be, we can fill out the rest of the committee that's going to be working on that 5-year plan. But again, everybody can get involved on the public meetings that take place throughout the year, and we hope you will. And, obviously pass on things that you hear from constituents too about what they are thinking and what they would like to see over the next 5 years. So do we need to vote to accept this tonight, or we just?
I think I needed to hear the names.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on to our ecological projects for 2022. The Parks Department, as mentioned previously this evening, has over 500 acres of parkland. The large majority of that is natural or was natural. Unfortunately, invasive species do outcompete our natives and often take over our ecosystems. So with a small maintenance task force, we have consistently budgeted line items for ecological services with Ecologic, who have partnered in our parks for years. So this year, I want to propose 3 projects, which would be Heritage Trail Park, Elm Street Green, and Starkey Park. So with these contracts, the ecologic crews come out and they respond and spot treat in the vegetative beds at Heritage Trail or Elm Street Green's prairie. Similarly, they will respond to the Starkey Park prairie, and they treat for poison hemlock, honeysuckle, sweet clover, Canada thistle, and other invasive species, and allow those to be spot treated with pesticides or mechanical removal. And that allows for natives to backfill that once that void is there. So with these 3 contracts for Heritage Trail Park, it would be multiple services throughout the year. And that contract would be $6,962. For Elm Street Green, it would be the same treatment schedule as well as mowing the hillside prairie, leaving the lower prairie to remain as habitat while we maintain that upper part and do the routine mowing. And that contract will be for $8,445. And then also the Starkey Park will treat the prairie throughout the year and then end the dormant season with a mowing of half of the prairie, again, leaving the other half for wildlife and other things to inhabit. So that final contract is $6,995. So for all three agreements for ecological services with Ecologic for this year, it'll be $23,696. So I'm asking for the approval of these agreements. This is a budgeted item that we incorporate into our operations annually.
We used Ecologic on all three areas the past couple of years
Yeah.
at a similar cost, or well, I'm sure, yeah, maybe the price went down. I don't know.
Yeah, speaking of those, that work, that ecological work that was done in January that Greg mentioned with those 50 truckloads, that was in partnership with a 2021 contract that was sunsetting for the wetland reserve. So we identify a different park to try to maintain with those services, and then we rotate. And, you know, the ultimate goal is to keep expanding our new natural resource technician positions. And eventually that would take over that stewardship, and we'd be able to have better control and planning over that.
And have these proposals been vetted legally?
Yes, I
Yes, they have.
I have? Okay, so then if there's any further questions, no further questions, I would take a motion to approve those contracts and give our superintendent the authority to sign for us. Would anybody like to make that motion?
I would motion to approve the ecological contracts.
John Wollenberg makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Now, John Salowitz has gotten the second on that, so we're going to go ahead and take a roll call vote. Jill Pack,
Aye.
John Wollenberg.
Aye.
Tim Cassidy,
Aye.
John Salowitz,
Aye.
Sarah Moore,
Aye.
and I say aye as well, so that passes unanimously. All right, the next item is Mulberry Fields.
Mulberry Fields. So Mulberry Fields has been a fantastic multi-field facility that can invite organized sports and those in the community to come gather and utilize that open space for those traditional sports you think of, that soccer, football, and things like that. So in 2021, we did enter into an agreement with the high school rugby club, and we were happy to house them for their season as they performed and competed out at Mulberry Fields. Well, as you heard earlier, kind of the vision is to re-engage that demographic of teenagers and bring organized sports back to Mulberry Fields. So we have been in contact with the high school rugby club as well as the middle school rugby club that newly formed, and Zionsville Little League. So Zionsville Little League is a well-established program in Zionsville. Anytime you walk by Lions Park, you're going to recognize that there is youth baseball going on in there. So they have outgrown that space, and they are continually looking for new spots to play baseball. So with over 800 students registered, they need to find locations. So we are happy to also house them this year and work on an agreement with them. So we do charge $5 per instance for field usage, and we utilize the agreement that Roger Burris developed years ago with that contract. So I have a example of how the fields will be utilized between March and June this year. So we will have a very busy Mulberry Fields. So you can see the Little League and the two rugby clubs utilizing almost all of the fields exclusively in the evenings during the weekends, or in the evenings during the weekdays, and also Saturday and Sunday mornings from about 9 to 2 or 3. So with your recommendation and approval, I would like to pursue these 3 agreements and execute them upon receipt of a certificate of insurance listing the town of Zionsville as additionally insured that meets all the requirements stated in the agreement we use for field reservations, and upon receipt of the $5 per field use instance.
Is the baseball field a grass field?
So it'll be T-ball coming out. So a
T-ball
much
grass.
smaller footprint. We are talking about offering storage for them so they don't have to lug all of that equipment between dozens of coaches. So T-ball games on Saturday in those 2 identified purple locations and practice throughout the week, Monday through Thursday. So really just reactivating and getting people back to Mulberry Fields for organized sports.
No changes required in terms of backstops or fences for Little League?
For Little League, I believe all the equipment is mobile. So they put up kind of those temporary fences and put out the bases. And that's what we'll be storing for them, bats and things like that.
Yeah, it's not going to go far.
And do we anticipate not having to use the lights?
Correct. These will all be daytime practices, and in the evenings it will sunset as the sun sets around 7:30, 8 o'clock.
$5 a game doesn't cover the lights, so that's
Does not cover the lights.
right. So that's a good trade. Okay. Do we need to make a motion on that?
Motion to enter into the agreement with Zionsville Little League, Zionsville High School Rugby Club, and the Zionsville Middle School Rugby Club upon receipt of payment and certification of insurance.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and move that we do accept these agreements. Yes.
I would also just say make it subject to legal review, just in case
Subject
we
to
need.
legal review.
Yeah, just in case we
Right.
need to tweak any of those for special circumstances.
Yeah, assuming that the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed and legal review comes back okay, I think it'd be great to get Mulberry Fields active again. So I would move that we accept what Jared is proposing for Mulberry Fields. Do we have a second?
Second?
John Wallenberg, was that you? John
Yes.
Wallenberg seconded that. Let's take a roll call vote. Joe Pack,
Aye.
John Wallenberg.
Aye.
Tim Cassidy,
Aye.
John Salowitz,
Aye.
Sarah Moore,
Aye.
and I say aye as well, making it unanimous. All right, Jared, thank you.
All right, the golf course accessible cart. So currently the golf course paving project is underway, and we're hoping to wrap that up very early in this first quarter of 2022 and invite the public back out to the course with smoother rides and just a prettier course out there. And again, with the mission of the department is to make sure everybody gets to play these sports. So we did want to explore accessible carts and making sure everyone can get around the course. So this is a rather specialized piece of equipment. And unfortunately, we can't find one within our current lease of the other carts that we own. So we can't rent it. And truly, as we made phone calls, Mike Wall was busy on the phone with multiple companies, and they all kind of deferred to this one company that offers this specialized golf cart, which is ADA compliant. So we would like to purchase this and house it at the golf course and have it available to those that need it in the future. So the cost of that cart is $12,600. This was anticipated and budgeted in the 2022 golf course budget. And we look forward to your consideration of adding this to our golf course.
Is this a part of the packet? Is that the
It should have been.
$12,000
Yeah.
piece of equipment? I wasn't
Yep.
sure if that was a maintenance item. So this could be used for giving people tours of the golf course,
Absolutely.
kind of
So,
a long rider. Is that what it looks like?
Yeah, I believe
I think
it
I've
can-
seen them at some
yeah.
golf courses.
they can accommodate a wheelchair and just have the ADA requirements for accessing that vehicle. And it is electric, so we can charge it in-house and continue to let it sit there and be available as clients need that.
Has Mike ever mentioned how often something like this has been requested? Or is
He has
seen
not,
a need? Or
but just to have it and to advertise that we have that now, that doesn't mean someone won't speak up.
Right.
I've actually done a little research on this, and there's a pen. I guess I don't know the right way to say it. There are devices that can allow people to help stand so they can enjoy the game of golf just like everyone else. So truly golf is kept up and tried to allow everyone to play as well. So a lot of neat innovations to get everybody out there to play.
is this something we can get the word out to current members? If this does go through, that we now have this? Is
Absolutely.
there a way to, Mike can kind of spearhead that effort?
Yeah, Mike, the town did invest in the 4UP software, which allows us to direct email golf course clients at any time with ease. So I think this is an absolute wonderful topic to bring up in one of those emails. And we would also have advertisements at the golf clubhouse, letting people know that that is available. Same rate as the golf cart.
And given that this would be our most expensive golf cart, would we have a place to house it?
Yes,
So it's
this,
not outside.
yeah. So this one will stay inside the garage. They would move around a couple things. That's historically just been used for storage. So definitely,
Do we have to change the electricity to charge it, or can we just use a standard outlet?
I believe it's a standard outlet for these
Okay.
golf carts.
Any other questions? All right, would anyone like to make a motion that we go ahead and purchase this cart?
I move we purchase the special golf cart for to make our golf course totally accessible or more accessible to disabled folks.
We have a motion from Tim Cassidy to purchase the accessible cart. Do we have a second?
I'll amend that to say as per the quote submitted with our packet.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Jill Pack seconds. Now let's take a vote. Jill Pack,
Aye.
Tim Cassidy,
Aye.
John Wallenberg.
Aye.
John Salowitz,
Aye.
Sarah Moore,
Aye.
and I vote in favor as well. So that passes unanimously. And the next topic, one that we've been really looking forward to, the change order at Overly Warman Park.
Another overly Warman Park change order. So as you can imagine, as you've witnessed, we have ran into several scenarios while developing the Overly Warman Park from a clean fill site into a public park. And this most recent change order is in response to walking the disc golf course and kind of the proposed paths, and just realizing that there is some additional work that needs to be done to make this a safe public amenity. So within the packet, there were 2 pages. One of them is for additional clearing, and that is to clear up the fairways so that the tees can get to the posts without a lot of brush and trees and things in there. And the much larger page on that was for additional clearing, grading, and installation of rustic steps. So utilizing the rubble that is on Overly Warman Park, we want to use those large pieces and safely implant them into the side of some of these slopes, which are just too steep to ask the public to traverse for a game of disc golf. So
You
truly make-
almost got 3 levels out there, don't you? I mean, so you're trying, if you throw your Frisbee down 1 level instead of, you may have a safer way to get down to the next level, right? Is that the
just some of those ravines are, the grades are beyond what we would want to safely ask the public to walk down, especially as rains in spring come. So this would navigate some of that and allow for a little bit safer travel. We did something very similar early on by moving stones to the back of the park where the rustic trails are to be a little bit higher up on the water table as you cross over one of the low sections. So again, using the site to improve the site, but unfortunately it does require a change order and additional work.
So do you and Trish think that the additional clearing is over and above what we reasonably asked HIS to do in the first place? Is it something that we have looked at and now desire?
We added some fairways. So when John was out there walking it with us, we figured we could make it a 18-hole course instead of just a 9 by adding just a few changes and a few fairways. So we did add a few fairways and then a couple new tee boxes to have. So each tee has, 2.
There was a 3rd page to this change order, and that was to install those 2 tees. Speaking with our director of maintenance, we're confident we can install those. So we'll work with HIS to remove that from this change order and just present the grading and then the clearing of the fairways and the steps.
Also, I'd like to add, as we walk through the original section, we were supposed to go over a swamp, which was completely unable to do such a thing. So it required a change of the course. So you would not even
Swamp
been
is
able to
just
have,
a water hazard.
well, you couldn't even get to the basket. So it was not a good place to have a hole. So
Unless we're inviting the Ace League to try to hole in one it.
yeah.
So these 2 tasks, the additional clearing and the rustic step installation and grading, comes to a total for this change order of $38,730.18. With the recent credit from the previous change order, that would make the overall change to the total approximately $25,913.91. So we recall we did receive a credit as we revised the boardwalk into 2 fishing piers. So that is kind of benefiting us in our overall total as we introduce hopefully this last change order.
So where are we on our contingency fund then?
Desperately low. We will need to strategize with our available appropriations to complete this project. We have surpassed where the bond is, but there is available funding through other resources. So we do have 900,000 allocated for the Starkey Bridge, and our early quotes of the Starkey Bridge were only 585,000. So just utilizing a little bit of that extra appropriation to complete this. And recall throughout this project, we have made concessions with HIS. Steel prices did go up 3 times before the contract was actually signed after bid. So we did work with them to meet them halfway on those steel prices. And again, we've had multiple challenges of having to revise our plans to make this project successful.
All right, does anybody have any more questions? Comments?
Can we ask HIS to take our snow removal approach and just while they're out there, just move some dirt around? Would that not work?
They are currently moving Mount Eleanor, that very large stack of dirt that we had changed last time. So they're moving around plenty of snow and dirt.
All right, do we have a motion to accept the latest change order at Overly Warman Park?
I'll make the motion of the change order.
John Salowitz has made that motion. Do we have a second?
I second that. Are there 2 change orders submitted in the packet, I believe?
The original change order was 3 different projects. We are going to do the tee boxes in-house, form those up and pour those. So it is 2 pages out of that 3. So those 2 projects together, each project was isolated with the price, is that 38,000.
So the
So
change orders, just for John Solovich's, for the motion, can you approve both? How should he, how do we want to minute?
Yeah, right.
one change order for approximately $38,730.18 for the installation of rustic steps, additional grading and clearing of the fairways.
So that's the motion that we're voting on, right?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Is that right, John?
Correct, that is
Okay,
correct.
I second that motion.
Okay, Tim Cassidy seconds. We'll take a roll call vote. Jill Pack,
Aye.
John Wallenberg,
Aye.
Tim Cassidy,
Aye.
John Salowitz,
Aye.
Sarah Moore,
Aye.
and I will say aye as well. That passes unanimously. All right, moving on to the Carpenter Nature Preserve presentation. Tricia, you gonna join us for that?
Yeah. Yep, I will pull it up. So introducing again, Tricia McCollum of REA, Runsdale, Ernstbergers and Associates, who has been assisting us with the Carpenter Nature Preserve Master Planning. Stakeholders have been meeting to create a vision and conceptual layout for the Carpenter Nature Preserve, in which we'll talk more about that tonight. Thank you.
So that's phase 1. And this will be on the screen. for those of you back there, so. Hard copy to have in your hand. And then this is phase 2.
Thank you.
So Carpenter Nature Preserve, we've been talking about this for a little while. Again, this is private property that the Carpenters have purchased with the intent that this will be a nature preserve. We had a charrette. When was that? November? Does that sound right? sometime last year, we had a charrette. And this was a team, had a team, it was us, Delft Design and Ecologic. And as a part of that charrette, we did several focus group meetings, talked to, the carpenters themselves as landowners, but also to several department heads and staff members in the town, just to talk about the project and what it could be, envision what it could be. And the overarching, which you'll see, with everything that we've proposed, we came up with this. The park needs to inspire, attract, and preserve. So anything we do out here, we want to be sure that it does meet that mission that we wanted to inspire, attract, and preserve. We did a large inventory, looked at utilities, looked at topography, looked at drainage, all the usual. But Ecologic was a part of our team, so they did a very, very thorough ecologic study and then came up with this proposed restoration of plant communities. And this again was a major driver for all the layouts. It's hard to see, but with these different hatches, these elements like the prairie grass and the reforestation, the layout that we have kind of goes around those areas and really incorporates those areas. One of the basic things that the carpenters have said from the beginning is this needs to be a nature preserve. This needs to be a place for habitat, for native plants, and for people to come out and enjoy nature. So no ball fields, no concert venues, nothing like that out here. As a part of the charrette, and I'll go ahead and run through this pretty quick, and then we can come back to the slides if you guys have questions on any of them. As part of the charrette, we had 3 concepts that we came up with, trying to show some different ideas and looking at the site and considering different things. Concept A, we kept the nature center in roughly the same location that the clubhouse is today. And the intent was that could be a new building or that could be using the existing nature center or clubhouse that's out there. The parking in this one is very close to where the existing parking is. You'll see again those areas of ecology, so the grassland and the reforestation, expanding the wetland, those are all incorporated in here. And then a trail system that would wind in and around that. A big part of that is a boardwalk. I should have brought my little red pointer. The boardwalk, which is down the hill from the nature center, and we'll go over that expanded wetland to get people kind of out into the wetland area. This one included several wildlife blinds. So that's just a structure where people can sit and kind of be hidden from wildlife, whether it's birds or other wildlife that would be out on the side. Outdoor classrooms, which are the pink dots that are spread around the site. Again, thinking if the nature center is out here, that would be a part of that learning, would be, taking kids in classrooms out to these, in classes out to these classrooms. We do have some paved path and some natural paths, so there would be a large amount of the trail that would be accessible. This one also includes expanding the existing pond that's there towards the top of the sheet, making that into a fishing pond. And you'll see, I think all 3 of the concepts had a secondary entrance or a potential future entrance, which goes north there out to 32. That's school-owned property. So carpenters don't own this property, Parks Department doesn't own this property, so we're just thinking big, thinking conceptual, because this is still a master plan. This is, nothing that's being built here today. Layout or concept B, again, looked at nature center in the same location as the clubhouse. This one actually had a unique feature, and it is towards the front of the property, and it's called White Oak Commons. And White Oak Commons would be, think like a restaurant, and some, we've got a detailed plan, which I can show you, but also some sort of smaller outfits might rent cross-country skis or might rent fishing poles. So it's sort of commercial, but in a state park kind of way. Think about a lodge in a state park is how it. And the idea here is, again, one of the things that the carpenters had said is, we want to capture not just the people that are going to come out here because they love nature. We want to capture people that don't think they want to be a part of nature. get them out here, draw them into the site, and they figure out, hey, I do have a place here, and this is, important to me. So White Oak Commons, again, as you think of kind of a quaint restaurant or a unique restaurant that would draw people out to the site and then further on into the preserve. Still has a nature center there. So, we're still attracting all those people with the nature center. This one does have the white and red dash is a cross-country course. So this would allow cross-country meets or cross-country practice, but it was laid out so that it meets that 5K distance that you need for cross-country. Again, this one has outdoor classrooms. Another unique part of this one is behind the nature center. It's a canopy walk, so like a boardwalk up in the top of the canopy of the trees. So tree houses that would come up and then a canopy walk that would connect those tree houses. So just a different way to experience the canopy out there. Concept C looked at the nature center in a completely new location. So it's located against that middle pond. Looked at, not utilizing the clubhouse or existing buildings that are out there. But this one would be much more, it would embrace the pond, the nature center would, which could be really nice for the nature center to have that as its front door. Excuse me. Still do have the secondary entrance going out to 32. It's got outdoor classrooms. Another unique feature from this one was the spiral there towards the bottom of the page. So that's just a big mound that would have a walk that would spiral up to the top of it. Another way to get an overlook, looking out over the site. So we took those three concepts and we actually had a couple of different meetings to talk through those and what everybody liked about, and this was the Carpenters and Jared and Mindy and Tim and John were also part of this smaller committee that we had, and pulled out the pieces that we liked from each of those three concepts and came up with this preferred concept, which is what you have there in front of you. So it has the nature center in the same location as the clubhouse. We're proposing a new building. A part of this work, we did an assessment of the existing building that's out there. I should take you all to the basement. One of the main outer walls of the basement, there's a foot that you can actually see outside. And we were out there was water coming in it. So it's not in the best shape. HVAC's been ripped out. So we did an assessment to see, okay, if we did what we needed to do to use this building, how long would it take to, to get your money back out of it? And I think through our conversations, we came to the conclusion that it made more sense to build a new building that is, sustainable, that has, the LEED certification elements in it. So it meets the purpose of the nature preserve, has bird-friendly glass, those types of things. So this is a new building that we're proposing here. It's about 12,000 square feet is what we're proposing. And I'll show you some precedent images here in a minute to give you an idea of what that is. That was the size that we determined we needed to be able to do the nature center, to grow the nature center, like we know how successful it can be, but then to also have some smaller community spaces inside the building. So you could have a gathering room with not a full kitchen, but a small like catering kitchen that could be a part of it. So to be able to incorporate all those uses, it ends up being that 12,000 square foot building. This one incorporated that spiral overlook. Right beside the spiral is what we're calling a cross-country green. And I may need to flip to the next page just so you can see the more detailed look at it. But the spiral will then, allow people to go up and see the start. If you've got cross-country meets out, see the start and the end, it does end there at the same place. We kept the canopy walk and the tree houses. We incorporated that larger boardwalk that goes over the wetlands and expanding the wetlands. Those outdoor classrooms, which are a big pink dot in this rendering, 3 of those, one of which is actually, there's a beautiful overlook, which is up high and looks out over Eagle Creek. So one of those outdoor classrooms would be there at that overlook. Shelter with restroom. We also had camping. This would just be primitive camping for Boy Scouts is what we're thinking. So it's not a campground or anything like that. It would just be the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts could come out here and have the camping. So there is a shelter restroom that's there close to that camping area. secondary entrance going out to 32, but you can see this works without that secondary entrance. So if that property acquisition doesn't take place, the layout still works with that. This one does include a dog park. We've put it kind of to the edge of the park so that it has less of an impact. And you'll notice that with most of the activities, they kind of stay on the outer edge. And then as you get closer to Eagle Creek, it's more natural and more of the preserve. Phase 2 then would be that White Oak Commons. So phase 1 would keep the existing barns that are out there, and maintenance would have some storage and buildings out there. And then phase 2 would relocate and rebuild the maintenance area, and it would incorporate White Oak Commons. It also includes, it's a little hard to see on this, but a building expansion that could grow the nature center, because we do see that it will likely grow. Habitat zones, again, that first dashed, hatched exhibit that I showed you, we still did incorporate those habitat zones and worked very closely with Ecologic. There were a couple places where we had what we're calling our tree alley. We had it angled a little bit different, and they said, well, it makes more sense to do this because then you won't be disturbing the prairie land where the birds are going to be, to maintain that habitat and really preserve where we can. Trails, again, there's a combination of the rustic or the soft trails, paved trails, which stay, from the nature center, kind of go up to that campground area, stay on the top part of the property, and provide that accessible route to get to the classrooms, the 2 major classrooms that are there, and then the cross-country course, which again is shown in that white dash. That's just a close-up. Outfitters, that was the word I was trying to think of earlier. So you can see the restaurant, the market or the shop outfitters, which again could be, in our mind, it could be somebody that rents cross-country skis, or something that somebody might not bring with them to come out here, or it could be more of a mom and pop shop that's out there too. The story behind White Oak Commons, there is this beautiful white oak tree right as you go into the entrance, hundreds of years old. It's huge. So that is the idea with this whole, access that goes and focuses on that white oak at the entrance of it. So just trying to highlight that because it is such a beautiful piece of the property. Then also just trying to enhance those waterways that are out there. A part of this project, there's the very real potential that DNR is going to invest some of their mitigation dollars in stream and wetland restoration out on the property. So that's huge, because they then not only fund to do the installation, but then they maintain it for 10 years after that. They pay for the installation for 10 years after. So that is a huge, so that dash, that black dash that you see going around the water line there, that would be a DNR easement. And a close-up of that, looking at the nature center. There you can see a little bit better the tree houses behind the nature center with the canopy walk. Again, that would be way up high, ending with the wildlife blind. You can see the serpentine graphic looking boardwalk that goes across the wetlands. This one does also include nature play. I don't know if anyone has been to Bernheim down in Bardstown, Kentucky. Bernheim Forest has a really cool example of nature play. So if you get a chance, Google that and see what they've got out there. It's a lot of natural, logs and boulders and that type of thing, using natural elements for play. Again, this is a master plan. So we haven't, done architectural drawings or anything like that, but this just gives you an idea of the aesthetic that we're thinking of in terms of a nature center. And again, thinking about that size that we were talking about with that 12,000 square foot building. So this one is actually in Pittsburgh. It's 15,000 square feet. And this one cost $19 million to build. That was in 2016. So keep in mind that these numbers are going to be a little bit, we know how out of whack costs are, or our new reality of cost, I guess I should say. But you can see how it fits into the land. It really does. exist with the land. It's not, an architectural piece that calls a lot of attention to itself. And that's the idea of what we see that this nature center would be. Newport Beach, again, just another example. Lots of glass, lots of bringing outside inside, but also a very natural look and really being compatible with the outside. This one's in San Antonio. It's 11,000 square feet. Because of how it's designed, it really does not look that big either. This one's in Ohio. Again, it kind of sits down into the ground, very natural, lots of glass, bringing the outside in. And then this is Bernheim's, which is a much smaller facility, but you can see it kind of mimics the trees. So that idea with whatever building that does occur out there, that's really going to be something compatible with the nature preserve. So our next steps are to, let me back up. Are there any questions? Wrong way. Just threw a lot at you.
I think it's great. So as we move forward, again, we have to remember this is Eagle Creek. This is our signature natural feature of our town. This is our heritage, and it's our drinking water, as it happens to be. So many exciting things here, and it's been amazing how much we've been in general agreement with all the constituent parties, including the carpenters, as we move forward. The one thing as we move forward, though, to think about as a parks board is that what's not here and what was agreed to not be here, and that's playing fields, mountain bike trails. I mean, it's and I don't know if the carpenters will have restrictions. They very well might, but again, there's been no issue so far. So keep in mind what's not there as we go forward and approve this. But flip side of that is it's super exciting and positive. I mean, it's phenomenal.
It's very exciting.
And I think another part of the discussions that we've had that's important to mention is the dog park that's here. In addition to giving us another dog park in the park system, it's also sort of a trade-off with dog owners, because much of the park will not be accessible to dogs because of the sensitive ecological areas that we're going to be getting into. So I don't know, Jared, you might want to talk more about that, about where dogs are not going to be able to go and how the dog park is going to be hopefully something that'll help placate people that want to bring their dogs out there.
Absolutely. So even if a dog is well behaved on a leash, as habitat and wildlife are around, they're still disturbed by the presence. It's hard to not watch a dog go after a squirrel, or, just you hear nesting birds quiet down as you pass by with your dog. It's just part of being a dog owner. And regardless of how responsible you are, there is still an associated impact with wildlife. So as a caveat, we do want to embrace the natural landscape and develop this dog park within the trees, within the grasslands, at the edge of the property, so that they can have a unique experience out at the park as well, and also limit the trails that dogs would be allowed to be on. So then our park naturalists and our natural resource technicians would actually enforce where that dividing line is between dog-friendly trails and pedestrian only. So truly allowing dogs to explore and enter the property, but also limiting their involvement with the rest of the site.
And that secondary entrance, Tricia did mention that we don't own that property, but the school district does, and that's where Union Elementary used to be. So, perhaps there'll be some discussions with the school district on, maybe allowing for that entrance to be there. An entrance coming off of 32, I think, and we've had this discussion, in my mind, if we're going to be bringing in buses, if a lot of traffic is going to be coming into the nature preserve, eventually, it's going to be better coming off of 32 than off of 900. Was that 900 east there or 200 south? That's 900 east, right? Yep. Yeah, it's a,
or 200.
it's a country road. It's not, not really great for buses and not really great for a whole lot of traffic to come in. So
When you said the idea being no fields, but it is prepped for possible cross-country route. I've been to a number of cross-country meets and I know they can be somewhat disruptive in terms of not only, the herd of kids running the trail, but the parents crisscrossing to try to watch said kids. So with the goal being for this to retain the original nature setting, is that something that's going to disturb that, or?
We did discuss that, and that is partially why there is the spiral overlook and the cross-country green to kind of hone in where that most excitement and activity would happen, the start-finish lines. And then also, another viewing area would be limited to around that restroom, another developed portion of the park. So with cross-country, it is kind of that single file rustic pathway that they most often travel. We are trying to minimize the actual disturbance and crowd and gathering to that immediate entrance to the southwest.
We'll say some parents will not be deterred by some wetlands. I mean,
You should, how about ravines?
ravine, because it's not just, the start finish that they,
Congregate out.
that people want to see. They want to see throughout, and then the teams that aren't running also gather at various routes alongside. Just
Perhaps we
maybe
look
tread
at,
carefully with that.
Yeah, this one's a little harder. All the light greenish that you see there on this screen is gonna be, it's a tall grass, really tall grass. So it is gonna be harder. I know what you're saying about, I've seen plenty of crazy cross-country meets. But it would be harder to just go tromping through that taller grass than, a typical mowed park like you might see. And there are several pathways. So, the paved pathways even again are more on the upper part of the core of the site, which is where those parents would tend to stay rather than going down the hillside. So with those being a much clearer, easier path, we would hope that they would stay on those. We had conversations about, we may need to limit, it's not going to be a big three-way meet. It may just be a two-way meet. It may just be, there may be some limitations that you have to put on those meets, or that may just be cross-country practice that happens out here. I think that's something that could be determined once you get a little further along with the design.
There was discussion, if you recall, about fall being a better time to have runners through there rather than spring in terms of habitat and birds especially.
There would be limitations that we wouldn't have any of those meets during nesting and breeding season.
The Carpenters have had the cross-country coach and team out there, and they're excited about it.
But probably no invitationals.
From here. Well,
Who knows? Down the road.
well, yeah. The start and finish is obviously in more of a field.
Mhm.
Some point it gets narrowed down. So.
and that is the challenge with all parks, is the balance of conservation and development. But obviously with this park in particular, we do want to outweigh conservation with any impact we do have on the land, because ultimately the mission is to conserve this large of a acreage as natural habitat and restore that.
But I think the Carpenters were really, and I think everybody in the committee was really believed that, cross-country is a great way to get people out in the woods. I mean, training in the woods. That's just speak from my personal experience. High school cross-country, that's when I got out in the woods. We would find any little track or woods plot in our little suburban area and go plow them with my teammates.
We'll just figure where the cutoffs are and we can just stand out there in front of it when the parents try to come up there.
It's different. No parents came to our meets when I was a kid.
They do now.
I bet.
I have a question about the parking. It looks like there's a couple of areas, but none of them look particularly large, which is good, except we do think that this is going to be a fairly big regional draw for people. And do we have enough parking spots? And I just harken back to Starkey Park, where there are signs posted all over, do not park on the grass, and you go through there and there are people parked on the grass constantly. And that's certainly not doing anything to save the environment and the natural beauty of it. So I don't want to see big parking areas, but is there enough?
So there are parking areas and they're a little hard to see. It's that darker gray strip that you see going alongside the road. So there's one up there by the dog park. There's one by the spiral. And then the main big parking lot behind the nature center. And we did look at, in fact, a lot of the nature centers that I showed you some examples that were about the same size and made sure we had as many parking spaces as they did. And I'm trying to remember, I think it was 60 to 80 that are available in that block that you see out there. So it actually would not be like that. There would be some islands of trees and wouldn't be, a blank sheet of asphalt like it is, but it is a lot of cars that you can't accommodate out there.
I just would hate to see somebody just pull off to the side of the road and crush something.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll go back and look at preserves that are similar size in terms of acreage and see, I was looking, concentrating more on the nature center, but I'll look at preserves and see what their parking counts look like and be sure we're in that same range.
This is a little more higher use preserve than if you look at just a standard preserve though.
Can be,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean-
If you start looking, they have such a wide range of what you call a
Well,
preserve.
exactly, yeah. So 'cause I kind of see there's a park that's a newer park that's in Fishers out toward the country. Off of
Flat Fork Creek,
what's that?
Flat Fork Creek.
Yeah.
Yep, we designed that one.
Okay, yeah. The spiral and those type of things, the tree houses, I see that that's a lot of what's out
Yes,
there too.
same character, yeah.
Were you gonna say there wasn't enough parking?
No, there seemed like, well, I've been out there once, but it seemed like there's decent parking. So,
The guys that are doing the mountain bike trails at Overly Warm did the mountain bike trails out there, actually.
okay.
Feel free, as you guys know, email me if you have any questions or concerns. I know it's 200 acres of stuff I just threw at you, so take the time to digest it, and we can share the presentation with the board if you guys would like to see that too. Real quick, because I know you've got lots of other stuff to get to. The next step is to hold our virtual public meeting, and it really is to share, the mission of what this property wants to do. And to give a little history of how we got where we are, but also to share again, this is a master plan. We're still thinking high level. We're not doing construction drawings or anything like that at this point. So these are just a few of the questions that we plan on asking as part of that virtual public meeting, just getting people excited about it, but also asking, have you seen a unique feature in another nature preserve that you think we should incorporate here? But also focusing on the nature center. This is going to be pretty neat for the nature center in terms of the room they're going to have and the programs. And we've seen how Mindy just continues to grow, all the programs, but especially the nature center too. So the opportunity here is really exciting. And then a few of the normal funding questions. So asking people, what they think in terms of funding for purchasing the property, but then also for how we might fund for construction and then future maintenance of the property. Again, we'll share this with you. And when you're looking at that, if there's something else that pops in your head that you think, hey, we should ask this question, just let us know, email either one of us and we'll be sure and include that in there. So virtual public outreach, we'll plan to start that here fairly soon, in probably the next week. And then the draft master plan, finishing that up. So it's taking this and actually producing the document to show you all that inventory and all the meetings and how we got to where we are. The final master plan book, after we've had that public input, will be at the beginning of March. And then it's time to go to work, find the money.
Great.
So you'd share the
Thank you
the
all.
PowerPoint with us? Okay.
Thank you, Tricia. Also want to thank Mayor Emily Styron for finding this opportunity. Thank Jim and Nancy Carpenter for seeing what this property could become and purchasing that while we work with them. Thank the Park Board for entering into that letter of intent with them last year and continuing the path forward in this process. Also want to thank Town Council for allowing this master planning process to go forward. And thank Zionsville for allowing 20 years of nature education to culminate and potentially have a permanent home here in Zionsville.
All right, and moving on to old business.
Old business. Southern expansion's first on there, right? Sorry,
Yes.
All right. So the Southern expansion, they are making progress on the Starkey Avenue Bridge every day, pouring footers and preparing to place the bridge. So we are anticipating that placement within the next week, inspecting the road and the bridge, and then getting that back open to the community. From there, HIS will be able to continue to work on top of the bridge, and then ultimately we will pave the southern portion as well as Overly Warman in the spring as the asphalt plants open back up. So please bear with us just a little longer while we finish up the bridge and get Starkey Avenue back open. Any questions concerning the Southern Rail Trail expansion? Moving on to the Starkey Park SB3 staircase. The staircase has been built and the aluminum handrails are being fabricated and should be installed next Tuesday. And we are anticipating a final walkthrough on Thursday to complete the project. So being the time of year it was, there is a lot of mud on the site. So we do want to keep that closed for a little bit longer after the project is complete to allow that seed to begin to take root. So we will communicate when that staircase will be open to the public this spring. And we are looking forward to that dog-friendly route for our visitors to Starkey.
Take a dog to the final walkthrough.
I think that'd be appropriate, wouldn't it?
Our dogs are looking forward to it too. Is there going to be a bike rack associated with that, with the new staircase? Is that part of the plan?
There was one placed earlier this year near the parking lot. So those that do choose to pedal into the park will have a place to stash their bike while they traverse the park on foot. Remember, Starkey is not open to bicycles, but if you want to get there on bike, we welcome you.
There's also an opportunity with Boy Scouts. That's a good Eagle Scout project if we need more capacity there for bike racks.
Absolutely.
There's some Boy Scouts.
Definitely.
Okay. All right. Any further comments on that? All right. Any other board related items? Sarah, you still with us?
I'm here.
Okay, let's take a look at claims. Has everyone had a chance to look over the claims? And are there any comments or questions about that? All right, do we have a motion to accept the claims as presented?
Make a motion to approve claims.
John Wollenberg makes a motion to accept the claims as presented. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Joe Pack seconds. Take a roll call vote. Joe Pack,
Aye.
John Wollenberg.
Aye.
Tim Cassidy,
Aye.
John Sedlitz,
Aye.
Sarah Moore.
Aye.
I say aye as well. Anything else that anyone would like to discuss? We're all set. All right, so then I would call for a movement or a call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All right, Tim Cassidy moves, John Wollenberg seconds because we're splitting our between live and virtual. We need to take a roll call vote. So Jill,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Sarah.
Aye.
Got an aye? Okay, good enough. I say aye as well. Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned and we'll see you again on March 9th, right here, 7 o'clock. Thank you very much, everybody.
I need the other.
Yes. And before you leave, Jill,
Yeah. Yes, I will.
Sign tonight's paperwork.